Hello everyone, X-Wall Bethelite here. And let's start off by reflecting. Think back to all the time you spent going door to door. Maybe even if you kind of write down how much time you think you spent knocking on doors. And think vividly. Think about the cold winters where you're knocking on those doors and it's painful to your knuckles because your hands are frozen. You've been outside knocking on doors for so long in that cold. Think about the really, really hot days where you were out in the field service doing what Watchtower told you to do, clocking in that time. Think about all the times where you're at the assembly and you're working as a parking attendant. I remember working as a parking attendant and I'm outside for so long. I got sunburn just standing outside in the heat, directing all the cars as they come in. I'm sure I'm not the only one. I'm sure other people have been out there working, directing traffic, working security, cleaning up. Think about all the time you spent in hall cleanup. Tally all that time together. Think about all the time you spent at the assemblies, district assemblies, and the time that you had to take off work. Time that you could have made the money that you needed in order to pay bills. But you set all that aside, sacrificed, so that you could make it to an assembly and then sat for 4 hours or more. Think about all that. Write it all down. If you want to pause the video, pause the video. Write all that down. Just give me an estimate. Be realistic, but give me an estimate of how much time you think you spent. Keep in mind, God sees everything, right? So God would know every second you spent working in field service and everywhere else. So you've come up with this list and you spend all this time with your kids, giving them Bible studies, going to work day and night, paying bills to keep a roof over their head. You've done all this. You've come up with this long list. You got people that are going to Bethel. You got missionaries. Who knows how much time they spent in field service? Special pioneers. Mark all this down. You come up with this list and you look at your list. Just sit there and just look at the list and you say, I did all this, yet my own kids won't speak to me. I did all this, but my father won't speak to me. You can hold it up. You've done all this, and look at how Watchtower treats you after you have slaved for this organization. One mistake. You make one mistake. It doesn't matter if you were a circuit overseer. It doesn't matter if you were a special pioneer. It doesn't matter if you gave countless people rides to the meeting. All the things that you did behind the scenes to help others. It doesn't matter. One mistake in everything that you have on that list that you wrote down, none of it matters. Now ask yourself a question. Is that how Jesus would treat anyone? Do you think that's how Jehovah would treat anyone? All that hard work. Oh well, you're out. You made a mistake. But that's how Watchtower does. We know full well Jesus Christ looks for the good. He doesn't look for the mistake. We know full well God sees and appreciates everything that we do. But Watchtower is the opposite. Jehovah's Witnesses, that organization, these people are not Christian. It is impossible for you to have a group of people that have been trained, desensitized, so that people that they've known for 30 years, 20 years, 10 years, their own kids, their own parents, they'll stop talking to them at the drop of a dime. And it doesn't have to be necessarily bad conduct. A person could have a conscious decision. Their Christian conscience may make it to where they can't abide by the overlapping generations' teaching. Now, keep in mind, a person going against their Christian conscience, that's a sin for them. We all know if it's okay for your conscience to watch this movie, well, that's fine. But if it's okay for your conscience and it's not okay for mine, my conscience is telling me I don't need to be watching this. And I sit there and watch it, I go against my conscience, I sin, right? I spoke to someone today who their conscience, the Christian conscience, won't let them. They don't have a choice. It's a sin for them to teach and repeat and believe the Jehovah's Witness teaching of overlapping generations. That the generation of 1914 that won't pass away before the end comes has overlapped with some other generation. If it's against your Christian conscience, you don't get a choice. You can't go against that. If they can't show you in the Bible enough information to make you feel comfortable in your conscience to believe a certain teaching, you shouldn't have to. You shouldn't be forced. But I spoke to someone and their own kids won't speak to them. Not because they're a bad person, not because they did anything wrong, but because they have a Christian conscience. That's why they won't speak to them. And I'm sure it's the same for many others. Hold up that list again. All that you've done. And they won't speak to me because I have a Christian conscience that won't allow me to do certain things. That's what I've done that's so bad. We know full well there's no Christian that would treat another Christian in that manner. That's why I can't say Jehovah's Witnesses are Christian. And let's say you've done all this, you've got this long list of all this that you've done for people. Quick builds. You went and out of your personal money, bought all the supplies, spent all this money out of your own pocket to help Watchtower. One mistake, you're disfellowshipped. You can't speak to anybody. You can't go anywhere. You don't get invited to anything. Your family, your friends, everybody you know turns on you. One mistake. Got all this good that you did. One mistake. Now, if you think about it, even after a person has been disfellowshipped and is then reinstated, they're still treated bad. They're still treated poorly. A person can be enduring the worst treatment for 6 months. It could be a year. It could be over a year. And they have gone through everything Watchtower told them to. They made a mistake, and they have literally gone through isolation for 6 whole months, maybe a year. And they finally read at the platform that this person is reinstated. Well, they still have a black cloud over that person's head. They're still judging that person. Everything that person did, it doesn't matter. Going through all that punishment, it doesn't matter. They still will treat you poorly. There's no Christian that would treat another Christian that way. My stepfather, Andrea, my sister's, her real father, would not attend his own daughter's wedding because it was inside of a different place of worship. It wasn't in a Buddhist temple. It wasn't in an Islamic mosque. It was in a church, and this church just simply had a different view than Jehovah's Witnesses did. And because they had a little bit of a different view than Jehovah's Witnesses, that warranted this man to miss his own daughter's wedding. There are people that dream of giving their daughter away at her wedding. They dream about their daughter's wedding. Not to mention the woman dreaming about her wedding. Every little minute detail planned out since they were kids. The whole life they've waited to walk down that aisle with their father. And this man will refuse to participate in his own daughter's wedding just because it's in a facility that the Christian group there has a difference in opinion, difference in belief. Still Christian. They're not thinking nothing out there, nothing far out there, just they're still Christian, just a little bit different than Watchtower. They're not saying that the end of the world is right around the corner every year like Watchtower. That's enough to miss your own daughter's wedding. These people are insane. There's no other group that is as cold in as large groups and in large number like Jehovah's Witnesses. You have the Amish. From my understanding, the Amish have shunning. The Amish aren't a fraction as large as Watchtower is. So they're not doing it to 8 million people, causing 8 million people to be so desensitized, so monstrous, that they will turn on literally anybody at the drop of a hat. They won't attend weddings. They won't go to funerals. I spoke to someone else, and Jehovah's Witness family members wouldn't stand by the bedside of their own sister who was about to pass away. There's nothing Christian about that. There's no way these people should be able to tarnish the name Christian. It's not Christian, it's just a club. And the people inside the club get certain benefits. It's like if you're a member of Sam's Club. If you're not a member of Sam's Club, you can't go in there and purchase anything. The minute that you're not a member of the club, you're gone. That's not Christian. It's just better treatment for members of the club. And people that aren't in the club, they don't get that treatment. That's Watchtower. Except for it's way worse. Scientologists. Leah Remini did a special. And Scientologists use shunning. I'm sure she's familiar with shunning. But Scientologists aren't a fraction as big as Watchtower. It's not happening on as large a scale as it's happening with Watchtower. Mormons, as far as I know, I haven't even heard of Mormons shunning like Jehovah's Witnesses. Mormons are a larger group, by far. But I haven't heard, I've known Mormons. I haven't heard of anybody being shunned like that. The World Society Mission Church of God, I may have pronounced that wrong, but they are a fraction of the size of Watchtower. And from what I've heard on a documentary, they incorporate shunning. So Watchtower would then be the worst group that teaches hate to the point where people will turn on their own family. This doesn't happen anywhere else. In prison, a person can be put in solitary confinement, but their family's still going to come visit them. It's unnatural what Jehovah's Witnesses do. These people are insane, a lot of them. And I'm not including the people that are in but don't abide by the shunning. There's people who's disfellowshipped and their family will still talk to them. I'm not talking about those lucky people. I'm talking about all the rest that can hold up a list of all this good that they've done for Watchtower. And what do you get in return? No consideration, no patience, no love, no concern. Watchtower does not have programs for people dealing with addictions or alcohol or dealing with anger. They don't have programs to help anybody with anything. All they do is disfellowship and shun. That's all they do. Shun, and it's never enough. Nothing you do is ever enough. Knock on doors. Do give parts. Nothing you do is ever enough for this group. There's no way Jesus or Jehovah would treat people that way. You have a cult that has hijacked the name. Just because they put the name on a building doesn't mean that they actually are of God. Just like I can put on a uniform and that doesn't mean that that's what I am. People can be fraudulent. Wolves in sheep's clothing. So think about that. If you come up with a list, that's great. If you want to comment down below how much time you think that you spent and the things that you've done, and then how were you treated after, that's fine. But just think of all that you've done for Watchtower. All that work that you put in for Watchtower, and that much time, it's all doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all. There's women who, and this is a very sad situation, but there are women who have pioneered, gone to Gilead, spent a lot of time and energy and effort for Watchtower. But because their husband was abusive and the organization sided with that husband, telling the wife, oh, you just have to be more submissive and then he'll stop hitting you. All of a sudden, everything that she's done doesn't account for anything. It doesn't matter. All this whole list of good, none of it matters because everyone's going to turn on her because they don't want to listen and help when an elder or someone in prominence abuses their wife. 937-789-4029. We want to think of anything we can do to get the word out there. This should not be legal. This type of shunning should not be legal. And when we hear people and possibly people burning down halls, think about it. What other recourse do they have? The state won't come in and help. The state won't tell Watchtower, hey, that's inhumane. You guys can't do that. You're free to have religion, but you can't do things that are inhumane. Well, if the state's not going to help, the government's not going to help, no one's going to help. You expect a person to lose their entire family, all their friends, their own son, their own daughter to a cult and not do anything? We don't condone arson, but we cause and effect. The laws of cause and effect. You can't cause this much damage. You have a cult that's causing more damage than any other cult. And I'm including the ones that have caused deaths, because Watchtower has the blood policy, no blood policy, where people that need surgeries can't have blood, which causes all these people to die. Watchtower's caused more death, caused more family breakups, from my understanding, than any other religion we would call a cult. And people expect nothing to ever happen. It's cause and effect. Eventually something will. Not that we condone it, but all that anger is not going to just disappear. So we want to get the word out. And, I don't think Watchtower will change the shunning policy until it's forced to change it. They've already tried lying on their website, jw.org, tried to lie and say that they don't shun. People are allowed to talk to their families. We all know that that's false. So comment down below. Let me know what you think. Ex-Wallkill Bethelite signing out.